Welcome to Monster. I finished the series, and there is a lot to discuss for Monster. I will admit that I made the mistake of getting upset towards the end because I wanted Monster to end the way that I wanted it to end. After I finished it, I had to sit back and think about it because it's not about what I want. It's about what the author was trying to convey. It was about his message. Because his writing is resulted in a much different climax and ending than what I wanted. I was being selfish. But I think a lot of people at this point didn't like Monster because they didn't understand the ending. That's the root cause of the problem here. In fact, that 1 out of 10 review on a Monster is not even worth addressing. It's a Joker review. Single H he was posting a joke. It's garbage. There's no point to give it dignity or address it. I can make more critique than that. So, with Monster approaching its end, everything comes down to a city. The city where Franz Bonaparte is in. And how many times do they need to say that guy's name? The main cast find their way to that town because Johann is planning the perfect suicide. His goal is to kill everybody and then have Tenma shoot him in the head. Because he wants Tenma to pay. He wants Tenma to break the one rule that Tenma always had. And that is the rule of the high morality that Tenma has. You might get mad. He might say that Tenma didn't take the shot. You might get mad and say that Tenma should have shot him when he had the chance. You might get mad that Johann was baiting Tenma to shoot him in the head, and Tenma wouldn't do it. But I think that the entire rule of Tenma is that he doesn't want to kill. And though it does sound kind of naive, it goes to the point he doesn't want to kill Johann. Not because Johann is a brutal serial killer, mass murderer, because he feels that he needs to save Johann. I think that's what Tenma was ultimately trying to do. Now I do like how when everybody's in this town, it's like a battle royale. What happens is Grimmer ends up meeting with Lunge. They both build this sort of camaraderie. They become comrades. Lunge knows who Grimmer is, and Grimmer knows who Lunge is, but they have common ground. They're trying to get to the bottom of Johann. Oh, that's a very interesting team. Those two. Also, Lunge and Grimmer became my favorite characters, and I will definitely talk a lot about both of them. That reminds me, I have to update my favorites list. Now, Tenma goes on his own journey, and he figures out that the conclusion is going to happen in this very specific town. He makes his journey. Nina and Gillard also figured this out. Nina, I will admit that Nina had like a good 10 episodes of her breaking down. They should have done it in 5. The flashbacks, they get kind of tedious. Her emotional breakdowns almost lost meaning. Come on, you can't keep doing flashbacks. And each time you do the flashback, you add like another 10 seconds to it. It loses its meaning each time. Yes, Monster does have some problems, but that's besides the point. Monster is still great. Monster is still amazing. I give it a 9 out of 10. It wasn't a 10 out of 10, unfortunately. Maybe the manga is better. I think the manga is probably better, but the anime is a 9 out of 10. I'll talk about that later. And thus, everybody comes to this town. But what happens is, Johann had a very loyal servant, and that loyal servant is Roberto. Now, Roberto did come off as kind of annoying because he just won't go away. But I do finally explain who Roberto is. In fact, he is the only one from the orphanage that the viewers actually learn his name. Though it's Adolf, which is probably much to do with Hitler. So Roberto is finally explained that he like Grimmer, was also a product of the orphanage. Grimmer and Roberto were childhood friends, and that was another huge twist in the series. Now, Grimmer had, of course, his magnificent Steiner persona. I wonder what Roberto's was, because all these kids in the orphanage had these violent sides of them that were triggered by anger, stress, sadness. I really wonder what was Robert's. What was Roberto's? Well, Roberto is orchestrating a massacre in this town, and Lunge is the one that goes after him. Grimmer ends up meeting Franz Bonaparte, and Grimmer has this goal that Franz must tell the world the truth about the orphanage. Unfortunately, Johann has a plan, a very calculated plan. He wants to erase memories. He wants to erase all trace. Johann wants to erase all traces of the orphanage and anybody that knew about him. That's why he's killing everybody one by one. But ultimately, the goal is suicide. That is Johann's ultimate goal. So Grimmer decides that with Franz Bonaparte here, he must protect him at all costs. He must keep him alive. Franz has this breakdown that what have I done? I've created monsters. I put these kids through so much. And Grimmer says, no, you're going to stay alive. You can tell the world the truth. However, at that point in the story, the apartment that they're in gets attacked by Roberto's minions. A lot more people die, as usual. And Grimmer goes outside. And he tries to rationalize with them, which is ultimately a waste of time. I think Grimmer was being very naive there. And then that girl from the sausage shop ends up coming by and sees Grimmer and feels relieved because she was very paranoid. She would not even cooperate with Tenma because she was so scared that Roberto was the man that was going to supposedly take her away and ended up creeping her out. And she managed to escape from Roberto before Roberto could kill her. And she runs to Grimmer and she gets shot in the neck. And Grimmer gets angry. He picks her up, tries to carry her, and then Grimmer gets shot in the shoulder. And he loses his patience once again. Except this time, he didn't turn into the magnificent Steiner. The viewer study did. In the end, he kills 4 of the henchmen, gets shot in the side, is bleeding to death. Tenma eventually gets there, runs into him. Wiz is there. Franz Bonaparte is there too. And Grimmer begins to show, again, another spectacular scene of amazing character development. He tells Tenma and the rest that, yes, he's crying, but he's crying not because he's gonna die, but because his son died. And he finally realizes that his emotions were never stolen by the orphanage, they were just lost. And like a letter being sent from a long time ago, he regains the emotions of true sadness and he experiences them. Right afterwards, he experiences the emotions of happiness. Grimmer was seeing his life flash before his eyes, and before he passed away, he finally understood more emotions. That though things could be sad, in the end, you have happy memories. Just like Eva said in the last episode, and Grimmer dies, and they give the viewers this detailed shot of Grimmer dead on the chair. It's tragic. Grimmer is an amazing character. He shows some of the best development I've ever seen in a character. You think Vale Evergarden has a good development? Oh, Grimmer development has something to say to you. Elsewhere, Lunge comes full circle, and he happens to run into Tenma, and he tells Tenma, "I'm sorry." Now, yes, Grimmer died. That's what everybody's talking about. But you have to acknowledge that Lunge finally told Tenma, "I'm sorry," about thinking that he was guilty. Now, Tenma, of course, is busy trying to save the people and be the good guy and whatnot. And Lunge goes to confront Roberto. And so this is where I got really mad at Monster, because Lunge starts to hunt down Roberto, finds Roberto, and what happens is Roberto shoots Lunge. Lunge, of course, saw it coming, so he managed to turn enough to be able to not dodge it, but get hit in a place that would cause not as much damage as where Roberto had intended to shoot him. And then they make it look like Roberto killed Lunge. And I got angry there. I was already mad that they killed Grimmer off. And Grimmer didn't really accomplish much that was significant. But at least he got that development that made up for his kind of lackluster death. It was all in the character development. But if you recall, when Lunge set out to go after Roberto, he had grabbed 2 firearms. The rifle or the shotgun, whatever it was, and then the handgun. So there was no way that Lunge would die there because the viewers knew that he had a handgun, and so he shoots Roberto in the side. As a result, Roberto misses. Now, why did Lunge point the gun at Roberto but stay by his feet? That was a huge mistake. Lunge has always been portrayed as a very intelligent and smart character. Why would he do this now? I think the author had to dumb down Lunge to make the rest of the story work. And so Roberto starts to hit Lunge where it hits him the best, which is the family issue. He tells Lunge that his wife already replaced him, and that his daughter thinks he's the grandpa. Now, there's a chance that Roberto was lying because eventually Lunge does get in touch with his son, but he doesn't mention anything about the man being in the wife's life. Well, maybe he was. Maybe he was just, he's the real father. He should get a chance to talk. Maybe that was the case. But Roberto takes advantage of this and gets the one up on Lunge and hits him. Just starts beating Lunge, throws him on the floor, kicks him like a soccer ball. Lunge is twitching from pain, and Roberto comes at him, sits on him, starts choking him with the weak hand, and he starts to tell Lunge more about him, what Johann wants, or about the landscape of death. And Roberto tells Lunge that he was also a child from the orphanage, but he was one of the ones that escaped, that survived. Fortunately for Lunge, even though he was getting choked to death and it looked like he was gonna die, what happened is that Roberto fainted. Roberto fainted, and Lunge took it as a chance to. Actually, no, before that. I'm messing up. As Roberto prepares to kill Lunge, Lunge grabs his wound, starts crushing it. He's literally crushing Roberto's organs, tearing him apart. And Lunge manages to jump on top of Roberto, put the gun in his hand. He should have shot him there. Why did Lunge ask Roberto, "Tell me where Johann is," when he has his gun all up in Roberto's mouth? It wouldn't work. All he's doing is giving Roberto a chance to attack him again. But Roberto fainted, and Lunge decides to walk away for whatever reason. And Roberto manages to stand back up, and he tells something to Lunge before hitting Lunge in the back of the head and knocking him out. But he doesn't kill Lunge. Why doesn't Roberto kill Lunge? I think that Roberto knew that Johann was in trouble and decided to just leave Lunge there. That's the only way I can explain it. Elsewhere, you have the alcoholic father that's wandering around. Of all the ones in the town, the alcoholic is one of the ones that survives. That was kind of funny. Well, not funny, just more like amusing. Johann is finally in the picture, and he tells Tenma to shoot me. And Tenma, again, is hesitating, because if Tenma shoots Johann, he's gonna break the one rule he always had, and Johann wants to break that rule. And even Nina stops Tenma from shooting Johann. Whis is there. And Johann is just telling Tenma, he has his finger on his forehead, says, shoot me, end it all. And Tenma is conflicted. He doesn't know if he can take the shot. Because Tenma believes that all lives are equal. And Johann tells him that all lives are only equal during death. That was Johann's way to break Tenma. But guess what? It didn't work. But Tema was gonna go for the shot. But luckily the alcoholic father was there, and he takes the shot because he saw Johan point a gun at Wiz, and he shoots Johan in the head. He saved Tema from breaking the one rule that he had. Because if Tema would have done the shot, Johan would have won. People would say, "Oh, well, Tema is being gullible. He's being naive. Why didn't he take the shot?" No. The author had a very special meaning behind this. That the casual viewer, if they didn't analyze, if they didn't think about it, they would have known that it's more complex than Tema just can't shoot the gun. It's a huge mistake that people make with Monster. But the drunk dad gets taken away, and his kid tries to fight for his defense, and then they never explain whether it worked or not. Tema has completely given up. He just sits there, defeated, doesn't try to run away. And Nina is there with him. Now Nina, again, she's been psychologically broken down for like 15 episodes now. It's pretty tragic. She wants to forgive Johan, and she tells Tema, after Johan's been shot in the head by the drunk, that she still wants to forgive him. Now Tema gets saved here because Lunge ends up surviving, and he gets put into a chopper next to Johan, and Johan got shot in the head, and everybody thinks it's a lost cause. And Lunge says that no, there is one person that can save him, and that's Dr. Tema. And Tema gets invited to save him instead of getting arrested. And Tema saves Johan for a second time. Second time. But think about it. You gotta think about it though. Why did Tema save Johan a second time? Why do you think Tema was willing to give up his freedom to save Munashi's brother that got shot? Why do you think Tema was willing to give up a life of living and hiding to go after Eva when Roberto was trying to kill her? Because Tema has a morality that treats all lives as equal. And Johan was trying to break Tema. He was trying to make Tema believe what Eva told Tema, that no, not all lives are equal. Tema was conflicted 20 episodes ago. He said, how do I know if my patient is good or if my patient is bad? How do I know if I'm reviving a monster or not? Remember, the lawyer tells him, same dilemma. Doesn't know he's defending a good guy or a bad guy, but he has faith. And so Tema has faith that if he saves Johan a second time, maybe something good can come out of it. Now, I could tell you, no, of course not. Johan, if he gets saved, he might go back to what he was. Now, here is where Tema... Now, here's what people don't realize. After that is all done, and Johan's scheme is all over, Tema wasn't done yet. He still wants to meet the mother. Because he feels if he meets Johan's mother, he can finally save Johan. And it was hinted for a while that Johan's mom was still out there. And Tema at the end of the series meets Johan's mom. And he learns the real name of Johan and Nina. And that the mom loves him very much still. So Tema knows, he goes to visit Johan in that police station hospital that he's in. And he tells Johan that his mom loves him, and that he tells Johan his real name. Now they don't tell the viewers what the names were. It doesn't matter or not. It doesn't matter what they do or not. They're just names. But to keep in accordance with how creepy Monster is, Tema has this dream, you could say, that Johan is conscious and tells him that the mom picked the one that she didn't want, and they go through a flashback where both him and Nina are dressed as girls. I don't think that was Johan's idea. I think that was the mom's idea, because she didn't want to have the guilt of knowing who she picked to sacrifice for the experiments, as it was shown before. But one kid tells her to hold on, and the one kid tells her to let go. And the one that told her to let go was Nina. Nina was the one that went through the entire horrific thing of the Rose Mansion and whatnot. So Tema walks away. You could say that Tenma was happy. He he's back to what he was doing. He's gonna meet up with Nina and Dieter. And, he has a chance to finally start over from the misery he went through. And the series ends with Johan's bed empty. Now, the author wanted to make this a mysterious ending, and he nailed it, because there are endless amounts of theories as to what Johan did next. Did he go back to his old ways? Did he kill himself? Or did he, not knowing his name and that his mom loved him, finally find a purpose in life and decides to just live in hiding like Grimmer? A fictional character that now has finally become human, live out his actual life. I think the author gave hints throughout the series, and I think Grimmer is one of the keys to understanding this. That being, when Grimmer was dying, he finally found resolve in that he didn't need the Magnificent Steiner anymore to save him anymore, because he became more human as a result of that last incident. I think that Johan became more human as well. Now Nina goes back to her ordinary life. She becomes a student. She's still late all the time, but she wrote a great thesis. I really wonder what that thesis is. They don't explain it. Yeah, the author deliberately left a lot of mysteries up to interpretation. But Nina wants to be a lawyer now. Dieter still got shoved to the side, completely forgotten. You have Gillard. You have the counselor that lived. Roberto finally died. I'm glad Roberto finally died. I'm still surprised. I'm still shocked that he was one of Grimmer's childhood friends. He was like early generation orphanage. I think that so Lunge, despite how I didn't like how they handled Lunge, at least he lived. If Grimmer died, I really wanted Lunge to at least survive, and he did. He became a lecturer for the police academy. I'm telling you, Lunge is an amazing character. He was the one that found the truth. He was the one that by the end of the whole thing was the testimony that made Tenma go free. It's incredible. Even Gillard, who has influence as a criminal psychologist, the authorities would not believe him. But Lunge, who has a lot more influence as a BKA detective, was able to tell them the entire story of Tenma, and of all the things that you would expect, Lunge was the one that allowed Tenma to be exonerated and be set free. So I'm happy that Lunge got the happy ending, and he finally went to go visit Grimmer's grave in that one scene, and he put down the beer and said there were so many things that he wanted to talk about with Grimmer, and that hurts. And then Lunge and Grimmer, they would have been best friends. Franz Bonaparte was actually surprised that Grimmer lived as long as he did, because all the kids committed suicide. But Roberto was another one. And I'm so happy that when Roberto was on his last couple of breaths, he told Johan he wanted to see the landscape of the end. And Johan told him, "You can't see it." And Roberto dies crying. He deserved that. Roberto absolutely deserved that. Eva finally turns a new leaf. And I do want to talk about Eva, because one of the things that happened early on during these episodes that I'm talking about is the Martine arc. Martine is this bodyguard, brutal bodyguard, who was a subordinate of the baby. Now keep in mind, the baby he got psychoed. The baby got exactly what he deserved. But Martin is tasked with the job of protecting Eva, and Martin doesn't like dealing with women, so he constantly reminds the viewers that he hates his job, that he's annoyed. And Eva is tasked by the baby's organization that she needs to go to all these parties and point out where Johan is. And as this happens, her and Martin start to get close. As stuck up, rich, and snobby as Eva is, she developed a soft spot for Martin. She was intrigued that he doesn't drink because his mom was an alcoholic. And it ties into a whole backstory of how Martin had an alcoholic mother that ultimately he left in the street because she asked him to. She froze to death. Martin's girlfriend had cheated on him, and she killed herself, and then she killed the boyfriend, but he took the fall for it. And there's a point where Christoph, Johann's disciple, who was voiced by Keir Heiss, which perplexed me because I could never imagine Keir Heiss sounding evil. They have this scene where Christoph tries to mind break Martin, that it wasn't your fault, that's what they wanted. And then he tells Martin that Eva wants to die too. But Martin does prepare to kill Eva, but doesn't do it because he hears Eva say Tenma's name. He doesn't do it. He tells her, let's run away together. And though Eva saw it as a joke at first, ultimately she wanted to run away with him. Eva was able to move on from Tenma. I don't see them getting back together because of the way that Eva is and what happened between them. But Eva moved on and she fell in love with Martin. And she told Martin, I want to meet you at the train station. But Martin got stuck with hitmen going after him because he refused to kill Eva. And Martin was supposed to he was supposed to make it to the station. He was supposed to make it to the station, but he didn't because he ran out of bullets. And some wimp, lowlife, nobody shoots Martin in the lung. And that's how he dies. He meets Tenma, gives him some information, tells him that Eva's at the train station. Eva finds out that Martin didn't make it and she cries. Yeah, this is a romance that was supposed to happen, but it didn't because of the lack of one bullet. So that's Monster. I think that a lot of people really just don't understand this anime. It's so complex. Even though I finished it about 4 hours ago, I had to just think about it for a long time. Because it's so deep. The messages, the themes, what the author trying to communicate. I think that it went over so many people's heads. But Monster is an incredible anime. I do agree that some of the filler drags it on too much. I think that Monster could have cut a good 15 episodes to be perfect. Well, not perfect, but a masterpiece. But it did kind of drag on more than it had to. But that doesn't even deduct from the expertise of storytelling and execution. So Dieter becomes, I guess, adopted or whatever. I think that's about everything I have to say about Monster. Yeah, it's very deep. If you're gonna watch Monster, or if you've watched Monster and you didn't like it, give it a second thought and really think about it. Because the author has such good writing, complex writing, you probably missed it the first time. And Lunge and Grimmer, you two are my favorite characters. Thank you for listening.